So I'm going to start off showing you guys how to do a gradient background. You can put a gradient as a background on anything pretty much. It's very easy and doesn't require a lot of manual work. There's a lot of sites that'll do it for you. Just go to Google and type in gradient generator. And I usually just click on the first one that I see. They're pretty much all the same. I just select any one of these to start with. Oh, not that one. Nice simple one here. I'm going to do like a blue-orange combination in the style of progressive. So I'm going to click on the bottom left color, change it to blue. Bottom right one's already orange. I'm going to make most of it blue, so I'm going to slide this guy over to about 75. And then I'm going to change the opacity so it's not so bright and crazy, 30. So that's the gradient I'm going to use. Oh, I don't want it to be vertical also. I'm going to change it to horizontal. So this kind of shows you what it's basically going to look like. Oh, I want to change that opacity down to also about 30 maybe, 25. That looks okay. It's not horrible. So yeah, that's it. So once you play around with the gradient generator, it'll generate obviously the styles for you. So you can just click copy there and open up your style sheet and just paste it into wherever you want to paste it into. So I'm going to select actually the body element, right? And then inside of body, I literally just paste all that stuff in. You'll notice that each one of these lines has like a comment on it at the end. It says, oh, this is FF3.6. I'm not sure what browser that is. Chrome, Safari, Opera, IE. So each one of these is like works for a different browser. So it's pretty complicated, like the different technologies that all the different browsers use in order to get some of these gradients to work. But all you really have to know for the time being is that as long as you include the whole suite of backgrounds that the gradient generator spits out, then it should work for whatever browser that you're in. And let me just go refresh this and see if it worked, and it did. It actually looks really terrible, but that's okay. That's the point, is that it works. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is trying to make this picture kind of look like a caption. So instead of this being above this, I want to put this to the left of the picture. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to find my image for my picture, and it looks like I don't have one. So let's open up our HTML. And right now we have just an IMG. So what I'm going to do is, in my typical fashion, I'm going to change the image to a div. And I'm going to say image class equals flow image and div. So I try to use divs for like almost everything, just because they're simple, they're easy to move around, they don't come with a whole lot of baggage. So let's try that, and I'm going to actually remove this in a second, but I'm going to start with that. And here in my style sheet, I'm going to go ahead and down here a little bit, I'm going to say flow image, and I'm going to say width is 200 pixels and height is 200 pixels. And I'm going to say border 2 pix solid orange. So let's see what that looks like. So there it is. I'm actually going to go ahead and get rid of that image right now. So it's going to replace it with mine. So there's that. And now I'm going to try to get the picture in there. And the way I'm going to do that is, close that. I'm going to go back and open my styles up, and here I'm just going to say background image, and the value for this is URL in parentheses, and then you put the name of the image. So I think it was flow.jpg. See if that works, and it did. The only problem is it's too big. So background size 200 pix, that should shape it up better. So it looks the same as it did before, except now it's a styled div instead of a cumbersome image tag. So that's kind of cool, and that's going to make it a little easier for me to read and deal with going forward. So I want this div and that div to both be on the same line. So the way I do that is by making them both inline block for starters. So this is the guy that I have in front of her. So That's going to be easy to select because it's the only element on the screen that has the class flow image. But this one is not. So this one has standard paragraph. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put actually two styles on this class. I want all the stuff that came along with standard paragraph to stay there, but I also want to add some new stuff to it. So I'm going to call this flow caption. And notice that now I have two styles on the same div. I have two classes on the same div. So it's going to pick up all the styles from both of them. So if I come in here, and obviously flow needs to be display inline block, and I also want flow caption, is that what I named it? Yep, flow caption to be display inline block. And I'm going to move these down a little bit just because they're a little less general than that stuff up there. I'll put them at the bottom. And we'll just leave that there for a second. Okay, so we're making some progress, and they're both next to each other like I wanted. The only problem is this guy and her are not vertically aligned. So this is actually usually a huge pain in the butt, trying to vertically align things. Let's see how much trouble it gives me. I'm going to go ahead and put on the caption and the image, I'll say vertical, actually, if you ever forget what the name of the attribute is, remember, use Google Chrome. So I select that, and I come over here, and I just say vert, and as I thought, it's vertical dash align. And then I think it's middle, and there it is, middle. So I'm going to put vertical align middle on both the image and the caption. And now that looks a whole heck of a lot better. The only problem is I don't want this to be so wide. There should be a width here that's picking up from the standard text, 575, standard paragraph, and I just want that to be a little smaller. But notice how as I'm shrinking the standard paragraph style, everything that inherits standard paragraph is shrinking. So I don't want everything to shrink, I just want that to shrink. Oops. Like that. Except not 100, something like maybe 210 or something like that. About 240 maybe. So if I come back here and I just change this one, flow caption, 240 pix. Now that's much better. Actually, it could be a little better than that because flow could kind of float over there to the right. Let's make it like 275 or more. Oh, I think just a little bit more and we're done. That looks pretty good. So, I think that kind of does it for most of the commonly used elements and laying things out. Really, the most important thing, just learning CSS at the beginning, to be able to understand the later things, is understanding the difference between the selectors. So knowing that this is selecting, an actual the body element, this is selecting all the list item elements, this is selecting only H1, this is H1 and H2, this is selecting anything that has the class standard paragraph on it. So being able to read these selectors and predict and understand what they're going to be changing on the screen. And then the second part is just, experience and familiarizing yourself with all these different attributes and valid value lists for the different attributes. Obviously the two kind of things that these are usually doing are either changing what something looks like or controlling the layout of the screen. So a lot of times when you see things like this, display inline block, you're saying I want to lay these out next to each other. When you see things like this, I'm adding a margin or a padding. Those are changing spatial dimensions. Those are also controlling layout. And then you have things like, the font family and the font size, which are not really changing dimensions, they're just changing the qualities of the different things. So you're changing both aesthetic look and feel, and you're also changing layout, geography, that kind of thing. So that's pretty much the basics of CSS. The last thing I want to talk about, that I'll talk about in this last video here, is how to properly structure your classes and how to properly nest them, and to use the selectors properly so that you kind of don't have too many global conflicts. So I'm going to get onto that in a second.